I'm Coach Gaines for those who don't know, and I'll be doing relays. So first thing you do for a relay, we'll do some touches in a second, but she's marking steps. And one of the biggest things that I see with middle schoolers is they don't make their feet touch when they're putting their marks down. So you can't really just walk like this to mark off your steps. You really have to go make your heel touch your toe when you're marking. So if you tell them 14 steps, they really have to be accurate with their heel touching the toe when they're doing it. Otherwise, it's going to be off. The other thing you need to instruct them to do is to run consistently every time. So even if you're going 50%, they need to run through the zone, because whether you make the exchange or not, the incoming runner needs to run all the way through the exchange zone. Because what'll happen is you'll hear them say this, well, she looked like she was coming real fast. Well, she is coming real fast. But your goal is to accelerate, and by the time you accelerate and she decelerates, you'll make the exchange. So run through the zone, mark accurately, and then I'm going to show you hand placement. So what you want, if you have kids that never did an exchange, you want to let them know that they need to give a good target. So the hand, wherever they are, whether right or left, the hand needs to be slightly away from the body, thumb down with this V, so the incoming runner can see their hand. It can't be down here because you can't see that. And right here, because if you're right here, this is what's going to happen. It's going to flap up, and it's hard to put the baton in. So you want a nice target. So I tell them to basically, wherever you are in your run, if you hear stick and you're here, you just put it back. So don't swing it back, because you'll have that. They're just going to peel it back wherever they are. So if you're up here and you hear stick, you're going to peel it back. You're not going to just swing it back, because what's going to happen is your whole body's going to go down, arm's going to go way up, you're going to stop accelerating. So wherever you are when they say stick, whether it's right or left, you're going to peel that hand back, thumb down, give them a nice target. Let's show them that, Peyton. Let's touch first. If you come around this side, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about when I say the V, the thumb down in the V. And you want to, do it again. You want to put it in there. The outgoing runner is going to put it in there forcefully so that they know it's there. So you're not just going to lay it out there and be like, and hope they see it. Always tell your incoming runner, you are the eyes and ears. It's all the onus is on the incoming runner to place the baton in the hand of the outgoing runner, because they have the eyes. Wrap your hand around it. And they are to pull it out of the hand of the incoming runner. So they can't just put it out there and let it go. You've got to physically feel them pull it. As they start to pull, then the incoming runner lets go. All right, just stop. Stick. They need to see the target first, because a lot of times they're going to think they can meet it. Stick. And when you try to meet it, this is what happens. Stick. And most of the time you hear that little pop. And you can tell them it's in the wrist. It's not, they don't have to come over top, because that's what they're going to, in middle school, they think, oh, I got to be dramatic to get it there. No, you don't. You're just running normally, and you're just going to move your wrist. Move your wrist. Here we go again. Stick. Stick. So the incoming runner needs to have good vision. So you will have some runners that won't be able to bring the baton. They'll only be able to take it, because they have to be able to see and operate. So sometimes, put your hand back. If you miss the first time, sometimes you have to actually wrap their hand around the baton if you're struggling, because it happens. It's happened. Like you hit and you miss, you say stick and you miss the first time, the second time. Or what I tell my students is, make a note somewhere in the exchange zone where there are lines on this one, where the 200 starts. If you haven't heard from your runner by then, stop. Because they've either fallen, something's gone wrong, or you never know what's going on. But you don't want them to run out of the exchange zone without the baton. So you can put a piece of tape down. You can just have them physically midway. If they haven't heard stick or wait or their name, then they need to stop and see what's going on behind them, because 9 times out of 10, their runners either fallen down, gotten tangled up, or stopped. So we're gonna go over here and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. So you're gonna get in position up here. So when they get in position, you want them to share the lane, because the lanes are big enough for both runners to run comfortably. If the baton is in their right hand, oh, this is the way I run it, because some people don't do this, so let me take that back. We run right, left, and that kind of prevents getting entangled on the turns, because you have lanes next to you, you have people who run different ways. But we can share the lane if I stay on my half of the lane and she stays on her half. Where we run into trouble is if I'm over here and I'm trying to give her a baton. So if I'm on her side, put your hand back. If I'm over here, now I have to have the wherewithal to come across my body and still make the exchange. But if I'm here on my own side, we can do it, and it works. So what happens here, we put the tape down. So you want to start, middle school students, I would start out with 12 steps and then adjust either up or back from there, depending on your incoming and outgoing runners. You'll have some that can get out better than others, but I would just start with 12 just as a starting place, and then you can adjust from there. The international mark is where they will stand, and some people won't be able to get the baton from the international mark. Some people you have to move up to the exchange zone because they won't be able to accelerate in time for middle school. But for high school, and hopefully you'll have runners that can operate, their heel cannot come down outside of this triangle, because if you're at a meet and you have true referees, that is grounds for disqualification. So have them stand up a little bit in the lane where you can see that they have clearance for their heel. Because if they're, like a Texas relays, if you're here and you're getting ready to take off and that heel drops, they can raise a red flag and disqualify you. So you want them standing on their side of the lane and get in position, Peyton. The only thing they have turned back is their eyes. They're looking down at my feet and their tape. They're not to look at me, because if they look at the runner coming, they're gonna probably leave early and say, oh, she looked like she was coming really fast. Well, she is, and that's what she's supposed to do. So have them keep their eyes on their tape, and we make a little box so that it's easier, because if you have one piece of tape, they're gonna try to judge it, and 9 times out of 10, the runner's gonna be here before they take off, which means they're gonna run into each other. So if you make a box, when the incoming runner's foot comes up here to step down, that's when she'll take off. All right, Paige, so you can practice taking off. So if I'm the incoming runner, she's watching my feet and her tape, and when I get here, she's gonna take off. You can practice just that way. You don't have to make the exchange to practice taking off, but you want to get them in running position, and you want to have both of your feet facing the direction that you're going. Because you see a lot of people stand like this because they think, oh, I have time. You know, he just started the race. But before you know it, they're coming and you're like, oh. By the time you turn here, get your body down in position, they're on your hip and you haven't left. So you want them to start with their feet facing forward, because that's the direction you're going. Your chest is down. All you're looking at is your tape and their feet. So when you get here, you cannot make the exchange before both runners are inside the big triangle, which is known as the exchange zone. Y'all come down this way, because I'm not about to run. Tie. The big thing we see in middle school is they want to make the exchange when the outgoing runner, as soon as they get in the exchange zone. But if you watched the Olympics and World Championships here lately, the United States have made this mistake. Both runners have to be inside this triangle before you can make the exchange. This one can't be about to enter. They both have to be physically inside this triangle before the exchange can be made. So that's a good thing to note. So when we both get in here, then I'll say stick. We can make the exchange. I can slow down. She can carry on. Any questions? No questions?
It's different for the 4x4. In the 4x4 exchange, the first exchange, and then you got the next two.
The next.
How are you going for the first one and the next two?
So 4x4 exchange. So if you are, let's act like you second leg, since you were. So if I am the incoming first leg runner, the second leg is going to get the baton on the triangle, and when I come, so what I tell my 4x4 runners, Statue of Liberty, your hand is up to the sky, you're looking, you're gonna have it up because they're tired, and you wanna give them a high target. Thumb is up, you still have this point, but they're going to watch it all the way in their hand. So they're not going to wait until they run right into them like this. We don't want to do that. Now, you may teach, get in one hand, switch to the comfortable hand. Might work in middle school. If they've run summer track, they'll be comfortable with it. But that's what you want them to do. You want them to receive it in their left hand. So they can receive it here, switch it over as they're running. But you might get a lefty that keeps it here, and it's gonna make the next exchange a little awkward. So for the first exchange, the second runner is on the big triangle. For the next two exchanges, they're going to be on a common line, and they're going to be adjusted according to the race. So if your team started out in first place over here, you'll be up here. Well, if 3 people passes them, they're going to move them back. So I tell my girls to wave so they can know where you are. Y'all have the same uniform on. She can see where you are. You wave, she can adjust. Because you don't want them, once they get right here, trying to jockey for position. So once they come on the home stretch, just tell them to stay put and just wave to their runner or wave them in. I always tell them to wave them in. And then they get out, so they're here. You want them to take 1, 2, 3, turn, receive, go. You'll see some, well, one, we had to change to a skip because she just couldn't get it. She just couldn't take off and run and turn back around. So some, you may just have to tell them to skip out and get the baton. You want to show them the skip? This was my skipper. So, some people won't be able to do the 1, 2, 3 turn. It's just not, it doesn't work. Baton slows down. So you just let them just kind of skip out, get it and go.
What you suggest for 4x4, not 4x4, but the 4x2? I've seen some people.
4x2 exchanges. I do 4x1. However, I don't use the entire international mark. We mark up from the international, which will be tough at the middle school level, because your kids are going to start dying, and they're going to be like, look, you mean I got to run all the way to, because exchange zones are further up in the 4x2, so they're like, I'm running a 210. Yes, you are. Run through the exchange zone. So we mark up from the international. We use that as our mark. So we take between 10 and 12 steps from the international zone, and you stand at your mark. So you are your mark. You stand at your mark, same as the 4x1, but you can't take off like you're running a 4x1. You have to keep in mind that that person is fatigued. They have run a 200 and they have about 10 to 15 more meters to go. So they can't take off full speed as if they're running 4x1. They have to adjust accordingly. 4x4 is the same. You can't take off and just go hard for 3 steps because you know that's what you're supposed to do. You have to adjust according to the incoming runner. But 4x2 exchange is the same, right, right, left. Some people do right, right, right. I don't understand it, but they do it. Questions? So other thing, because I've seen this at a middle school meet. The first exchange of the 4x2 is always in the top of the turn. So there are going to be 2 different sets of exchange zones. That one that's the furthest up, that's for the first exchange of the 4x2. Because I've seen people line up the first exchange here. Which your runners would be thankful because they just ran a 180. But this runner's going to be a little upset because that one's going to be right over there. So your first exchange is going to occur at the furthest exchange zone in the turn. So it looks like you're running to the top of the turn because you are, but they're also starting in the middle of the turn on that end for the 4x2. Any other questions? And I suggest doing handoffs more than once a week. Twice a week, if possible, because it takes time. You may have to break some bad habits, some old habits.
You do it prior to or middle workouts, after workouts?
We do sprints, starts, and exchanges all the same day. So if you can work that out, then it goes hand in hand. You can have them do, you can have your first legs doing starts while you have your middle legs doing exchanges. And then when they're done, you can break out. And if you can, practice their exchange where they will exchange. It's harder to practice on this right here if you're going to be coming out of the turn. So it's a different feel when you're running out of the turn into the straightaway versus coming into the straightaway out of the turn. So if at all possible, I would practice where they're going to make their exchange. Now 4x2 is different. 4x2 exchange is pretty much the same. So you can practice, they're going to be all going into the turn. But 4x1, practice in their location so they get a feel for what's going to happen or what they're going to look like, because people look different. I've run all legs. I run all 4 legs. And when you're third leg and you got a second leg, they look like they're flying down this back stretch. And so they need to know what that looks like before you get to the meet, and they get to the meet and take off early. You're like, what happened? Well, they look like they were flying. The other thing you need to do, and I suggest, run the whole relay. Run it in practice. Run it as a part of your training. So everybody knows what it actually feels like to have them coming towards you at full speed. And that way there's no question as to what she's going to look like. She looked like she was flying. She is. And she'll be flying Saturday. So you need to adjust accordingly. You're either going to have to get out much faster or add steps. That's the other thing. If you have, sometimes what you'll have is people who can't judge. They just can't judge the way the person's coming in. You can just add more steps. If you know they're going to take a little longer to accelerate, just add some more steps onto them or take them off. If you know every time they've left early in practice meets, every time you do it, they leave early, just adjust it. And that way you get the baton around. Questions?